So yes, this will be a kind of survey talk on tropical convexity, application to complexity problems for games and optimization, and with some new results, new part on ambitropical convexity. So I apologize to the one who already heard the start of the talk, because I need to recall some known materials which may be not known for everybody here. So the first part of the talk is based on joint work with Marina Kian, Sacha Guterman, Xavier Lamigeon, Michael Jossuig, and others. On the end is a recent work with Marina Kian and Sarah Vanucci on ambitropical stuff, this strange world. So yeah. So from tropical to ambitropical convexity, so we'll speak about tropical analog of modules, so it will be the same tropical geometry as in the talk of Dima, also more in the linear space setting. So we'll see some relations with complexity over non-Archimedean fields, with mean payoff game, and with complexity of linear programming. So some very classical problem in optimization, and we'll see that tropical convexity appears as a tool to address these problems. And then, in the second part of the talk, I will present some, I would say, new generalized convexity, ambitropical. In the tropical setting, you have a max plus and min plus models. So you have two copies of the world, and somehow they can be included in a single copy called ambitropical, with a more sophisticated, with higher difficulties. And so I will present this ambitropical story at the end. Voilà. And this makes further relation. So, first, some motivation for classical problems in convex programming on game. So I will start. Much of this talk will be about zero-sum min payoff games. So they are very classical class of games in computer science, algorithmic game theory, and also studied by game theorists theoretically. So they are combinatorial games where you play on a digraph, finite graph with edges. So some nodes belong to player who is called maximizer. Some other nodes belong to player who is called minimizer. The players alternate the move, and when you make a move, the player called min pays amount of money to player max, which is written on the arc. Voilà. It's always mix min to pays to max, so if the amount is negative, min gets some benefit. Voilà. And so a run is just a sequence of states, and between when you move from a state circle to state square, we have payments, which are given by min to max. So this min payoff game, the difficulty is an infinite game. So let's say that player max wants to minimize the min payoff per time unit, so the lim-inf of this min payoff, let's say, whereas player min wants to minimize the min loss, that is the lim-sup. So it's not immediately obvious that this game has a value. So Ehrenfeucht and Misilki showed that there exists a number, a value, which depends of I, the initial state. And there exists positional strategies of a player. So positional, when you are in a state, you play a certain action depending on the state, such that, well, this positional strategy, they guarantee that the min payoff of max is at least equal to the value, whatever min does, and the min loss of min does not exceed the value, whatever max player does. So this is the notion of saddle point, if you want, in the space of strategies, essentially, of the value of equilibria. Voilà. So these games have a value. So just an example, if you never saw it, okay? So you have circle states which belong to min. So if min moves up, he pays -2, so he gets 2. Then max goes back, so min pays back 1. So over this turn, min could win 2. So it's zero sum, so max lost, means 2 minus 1, so min lost 1. So max loses 1, okay? But if min goes down, being greedy, then eventually min will lose 5 per time unit. So from the point of view of maximizer, you can say that the mean payoff of max is -1 if he is from up, and it is 5 from below. Okay, voilà. And this is this number which you want to compute. So long time ago, Gurvich, Karzanov, and Rashian asked whether these games are polynomial time, and still not known. Okay, not known. It's known they are in a class called NP intersection with CoNP, which is very important. For it was introduced by Edmonds, this class. So it's but not known to be in P. Well, it's because the natural algorithm is to simulate the game, and then if you seem to simulate the game until you can decide the winner, then the horizon of simulation is essentially of the maximal payment, and so it's not polynomial in the logarithm of this maximal payment. So it's not polynomial. Voilà. So the other problem is much more classical somehow. So on this min payoff game is linear programming. So linear programming, you take a rational polyhedron, and you want to minimize the linear function on this polyhedron. So you may think that it is a very old problem, a bit dead, but not really. That is, So the 9 problem of Smail in the list of 21st century ask whether you can decide feasibility of linear programming in a strongly polynomial time. So you want to decide whether there is a point or not in this polyhedron. And what does strongly polynomial time? So weakly polynomial, it's what everybody calls polynomial. It means that the execution time is bounded by a polynomial in the length of the input. And in the length of the input, you count the number of bits of the rational numbers. If you have a big rational number, you are allowed to do more iterations. So in strongly polynomial, it means it requires that in particular, that the number of arithmetic operations is bounded by a polynomial in the number of variables, in the number of constraints, uniformly in the size of the rational numbers that you have to describe your constraints. So that's an open problem. So there are two approaches to consider this problem in linear programming. The one is pivoting method, like simplex method of Danzig. So you consider a sequence of points in the graph of a polyhedron, sequence of vertices, and you try to decrease the value, C scalar x. So this is the well-known simplex method. And so it's parameterized by a pivoting rule. You can go by a path and another path. And it's a very well-known open problem that whether there is a pivoting rule which can make a polynomial time, polynomial number of iterations. Okay? So however, one iteration is polynomial, but it's not even known whether there is a short path in the polyhedral graph. Voilà. So there is another method, another family of methods, very popular in optimization, which, unlike the simplex, have been proved to be weakly polynomial. So the simplex can be, well, exponential in the worst case, but it's open whether there is a polynomial, strongly polynomial rule. But for interior points, they are at least weakly polynomial. So interior point methods, you minimize C scalar x, but instead of having a combinatorial problem Ax smaller than b, well, you add a logarithmic penalty, logarithmic barrier. That is, you imagine that you add a potential, you take a logarithmic potential which is repulsive for the facets of your polyhedron. So these logarithmic potentials, well, when you minimize the sum of this energy C scalar x, like the gravity energy, plus the logarithmic potential, well, you end up with a unique optimal point, which is x of mu, which depends on the weight of the force mu. On this point, it's called the central path. So if you take mu is equal to infinity, you have a central point in the polyhedron, which is called the analytic center. And if you take mu is equal to 0, you get the optimum. And so the map, which sends mu to x of mu, it's a branch of a real algebraic curve. It's called the central path. And so the interior point method, what they do Newton iteration to follow the central path. You stay in the neighborhood of the central path, and in that way you can solve the linear program in well, weakly polynomial time. So it was, so it's essentially an homotopy method. Yeah. And the good geometry of interior point is related to good geometry of central path. Voilà. So more generally, Nesterov and Emirovsky, they discovered that the polynomiality results for linear programming, they are related to properties of self-concordant barrier. So it's a very nice definition, actually. They understood that this log barrier interior point methods, you minimize C scalar x plus mu f of x, where f is a potential function. It should be, this barrier, it should be strictly convex. It should be smooth. It must tend to infinity at the boundary of your convex body. And if you consider, well, the map on the second derivative of the map f should not move too quickly. Because if you do Newton iteration, you want that the Hessian is sufficiently regular in some sense. So you have a beautiful inequality on the third and second derivative of the restriction of the barrier function to lines. And so this inequality that the third derivative is smaller than 2 times the second derivative to the power 3/2. It's called self-concordance. And the meta-theorem of interior point method is that if you have a self-concordant barrier over a convex body, you can optimize in weakly polynomial time somehow in your convex body. At least for a polyhedron, it will be in weakly polynomial time. Oui?
It's a sufficient condition?
So sufficient, yes. But it's tight in the sense that all the results that are on interior point methods for which they are proved a weakly polynomial algorithm, they rely on self-concordance. Okay? All the beyond the axiom of self-concordance, I'm not aware of polynomial results. So it's, let's say, so you cannot say it's necessary, but it's all the literature, all the proofs are in this setting. And attempts to consider non-self-concordant barrier didn't succeed. So this is so long. For many years, it was introduced. It comes back to work of Karl Markov and after to purification of this work where the geometry of central path was understood. So people were thinking that this may lead to a strongly polynomial algorithm for linear programming. At least there was some hope. So in particular, De Dieu, Malajovic, and Schub, they showed that if you consider the central path of a log barrier, well, then it has a small total curvature if you average the total curvature over all the cells. When you have a polyhedron, you can think of it as a cell of arrangement of hyperplane. So if you have the central path is a real curve which passes through every cell. So if you take the average curvature per cell, you end up with O of n. This is what where n is number of variables. This is what they showed, De Dieu, Malajovic, and Schub. And so there was a conjecture that in general, the total curvature of a central path could be not polynomial, and that perhaps the sum interior point methods could be strongly polynomial. So here, this is somehow the main application of all these tropical techniques where you see at the same time application to game and application to optimization to interior point methods. There are two facets of the same result. So the first result is telling you that this model of min-P of game actually it's somehow easier than linear programming. That is, if you consider linear programming from a combinatorial point of view, that is, you consider only linear programming with simplex type algorithms that do pivoting from one vertex to another, and it should make pivoting in a nice way, in a nice semi-algebraic way somehow. Then if you add such an algorithm which you do pivoting with a polynomial number of pivots, then this would solve min-P of game in polynomial time. So you are saying one inclusion, one inequality, min-P of game, this strange problem is included in combinatorial linear programming. That's the first part. So the proof, essentially, which I will explain, is some kind of embedding theorem. That is, when you have a min-P of game, it corresponds to a non-Archimedean linear program. And then, in that way, you can transfer complexity from classical linear programming to, let's say, to min-P of game, providing the results are of a combinatorial nature. So this is the first theorem, an order relation. Min-P of game is somehow easier than combinatorial linear programming. And the second one is the negative result. That is, we proved some in 2018 with Xavier Lamigeon, Pascal Benchiol, Michael Joswick, that if you take, there is a linear program, not too complicated, with a number of variables and inequalities linear in R, such that the central path has a total curvature, so a number of turns, if you want, 2 to VR. And in fact, log barrier interior point methods, they make an exponential number of iterations. They are very slow. So here is somehow an update, a very recent update of this autumn, recent result. So recently, with Nicolas Van Damme, starting PhD student, we showed that, and Xavier Lamigeon, we showed that this is more general. The counterexample is universal. Any interior point method which uses a self-concordant barrier, no such method can be strongly polynomial. So essentially, all self-concordant barrier has the same, let's say, geometric pathology, the same kind of that the logarithmic barrier. In some sense, the logarithmic barrier is universal counterexamples. So now it's time to explain you how it goes. What are the ideas beyond this result? So the ideas was to use linear programming over non-Archimedean fields and tropical convexity. Voilà. So for that, maybe I need to recall some notions of min-P of games, operator approach. So the game I showed you at the beginning, how you solve it, very classically. It's this equation which goes back to Shapley. That is, you define the value of the game. So the value is, I said it, it's essentially a saddle point. What max win if both players play optimally. Okay? The value depends on the horizon k, it depends on the initial state. And then you can write a dynamic programming equation, vk, as a function of vk minus 1 for the different state. So this is a min-max equation, not difficult to write, which follows from the graph. Voilà. So then you abstractly, vk is, so this is the t of vk minus 1. So you have a map t from Rn to Rn. Rn is the number of states. And this map is called the Shapley operator. And you iterate the Shapley operator, you get the value in horizon k. And this is your beautiful Shapley operator, mean over actions of then payment plus max over actions of other player, payment plus x tomorrow, essentially. So this is min-max formula for Shapley operator. And so what is useful is these axioms. Shapley operators are order preserving with respect to partial order of Rn, and they commute with addition with a constant. I will use that many times. and they are subnorm non-expansive. And these axioms somehow they are characterized Shapley operators in some sense. Okay? So you have more complicated examples of Shapley operators. The original example of Shapley, there were probability, transition probability. So when the player chooses actions, you move to next state with probability depending on actions. So this is the most general form of a Shapley operator. And you can show that every abstract Shapley operator, which is monotone, additive, homogeneous, can be written in that way, in some sense. Voilà. And then so the interpreter, again, you have that Tk of 0 is the value of a game in horizon K. And Tk of u is the value of a modified game in which the last day you receive payment uj in terminal state j. So, voilà. So in this setting, you have very general theorems that tells you that the mean payoff exists. So a way to define the mean payoff is to say that it is the limit of a value in horizon K divided by K, mean payoff per time unit. So for when the Shapley operator is semi-algebraic and well, it is automatically non-expansive, then the mean payoff does exist. So it corresponds with what we want. Voilà. So in all our cases, the mean payoff will exist. Voilà.
Sorry,
yes?
What is the meaning of semi-algebraic here?
Semi-algebraic, it means that the graph of a function of the operator is a semi-algebraic set. So semi-algebraic set is defined by infinitely many equalities, inequalities, polynomial inequalities. And so as soon as, so to have this existence of a limit, you have the non-expansiveness which is free from being a Shapley operator is not enough. You can have oscillation in the long run value. So when you don't have oscillation, to guarantee absence of oscillation, you need some rigidity, like semi-algebraic, like cominimality, like you need some structure on the operator.
You don't need convexity of this set or something?
No. You don't want T to be convex. T is min-max. So T is a min-max operator. You want that it doesn't do oscillation, you see, infinitely many oscillation, such things. So it's why semi-algebraic is needed. Yeah. So voilà. So the way now you can solve the mean payoff game is by computing a sub-fixed point of a Shapley operator. So you have this kind of lemma which makes a bridge with tropical convexity. That is for a Shapley operator of a deterministic mean payoff game, which is the simplest case, no stochastic. Okay. On a state, j is winning, so meaning that the limit of value in horizon k starting from j divided by k is non-negative. If and only if there is a certificate, there is a vector u, such that u smaller than t of u. So t of u, it represents the value of a game where you play once and you receive u tomorrow. And at the left u, you receive u immediately. So you prefer to play than not to play. This is what tells you smaller than t of u. And the vector u, it has to be allowed to have minus infinity coordinate, because we are in the tropical world. In the tropical world, minus infinity is 0. It's a very good element. So it's very natural to allow minus infinity. But what is important is that the j entry of u is finite. So to show you this picture, voilà, you can represent a game by the space of subharmonic vectors, the vectors u such that u smaller than t of u. You send them by the exponential map to the simplex to visualize them. So the boundary of the simplex, it corresponds to vectors with minus infinity entries. So when you have the set of subharmonic vectors which has points in the interior, it means that all the states are winning at the left. At the right, if the set of subharmonic vectors is in a facet of a face of a simplex, it means that, for instance, here the state 2, 3 are winning. State 1 is losing. So in that way, you have a geometric representation of a game as a set. Voilà. And that's generalizes. How we go for. Voilà. So now you want to study the geometric structure of the certificates of this set of subharmonic vectors, the vector u such that u smaller than t of u, which shows you that you can win the game. So here you have tropical semi-field. Voilà. The addition is maximum, the product is addition. So here in my talk, it's max, not min for the moment. Voilà. And of course, you can do min plus also. Voilà. So a tropical module, the action of scalars is just a vector plus a constant, lambda, to add it to every entry. And so a submodule is a subset which is stable by tropical linear combination. So it's exactly the notion of tropical convex cone, because in the tropical setting, all numbers are non-negative in some sense. Okay? So there is this notion of module or convex cone, voilà, stable by sup and stable by translation by a constant. And tropical convex set is stable by well, convex cells, that is the sum of weight is equal to 1 tropically. That's very standard. Voilà. And then you can show, actually, that there is an equivalence between a submodule that is the modulus of Rmax to Vn, so subset stable by a sup and by translation by a constant, and the certificates that the game are winning, that is subfixed points of Shapley operators. There is a bijection between the closed submodules and the Shapley on subfixed one set of Shapley operators. And in this correspondence, it's very simple. When you have a set, module, you can consider the best approximation in the tropical sense, that is the maximal element of a module which is below your set. This always exists tropically. And so this best approximation operator, it gives you exactly what you want. This is part of this proposition. So we will use this very much, this relation between modules and the Shapley, you will see after, when we generalize to ambitropical. Voilà, so there is a tropical adjoint. Linear map is just AX tropically. And the adjoint is something like A sharp. You transpose the map, you change the sign, and you interpret in min plus. Voilà, that's so-called the adjoint. And so it has the property that AX smaller than Y, if and only if X smaller than A sharp Y is the adjoint. And then when you have a min of game, it's a min max, and you say, okay, it's just A sharp BV. So it's a composed of a adjoint with a max plus linear map. So it's non-linear, but it's, and then V smaller than T of V is equivalent to AV smaller than V using the adjoint. So it's exactly a tropical polyhedral cone. So here you see that the min of game corresponds essentially to an arrangement of tropical half spaces, I would say. That is to a collection of tropical inequalities. Voilà. Voilà. So now you have to understand how does look the geometry of these inequalities. So here it's the simplest example of tropical prevariety. So it's called tropical hyperplane. It's the green one. That is, a tropical hyperplane, it's the set of points in Rx, then, such that the max of AI plus Xi is achieved twice at least. Yeah. So in dimension 3, you have something like 3 branches, for instance, when x1 is equal to x2 and is greater than x3, these kind of things. So here I represent the locus where the maximum is achieved twice. There is an apex, and it has 3 branches. It's typical of tropical hyperplanes in dimension 3. Voilà. So half spaces is when you say that the max of some term at the left is smaller than the max of terms at the right. So what it means, you draw the tropical hyperplane, which was the set where the minimum is achieved twice, and it divides the plane into the space in sectors, and you take union of sectors, depending on the monomials you put at right, and any union of sectors is a half space. Voilà. And now a tropical polyhedron, you can say either it's generated by finitely many vectors, or it is intersection of finitely many half spaces. Both are equal. So the geometry of this polyhedral cone is very well understood. So in particular, Lam-Postnikov, they define the notion of Alkov polyhedra, which I'm sure is very familiar for most of the audience. So they are generalization of so-called order polytopes. So Alkov polyhedra, they are of the form xi minus xj smaller than aij, where aij are given numbers. So it's a polyhedron such that the normals to the facets, they are vectors of the root system an. And then tropical polyhedra, they are polyhedral complexes where the cells are precisely Alkov polyhedra. So here is an example of tropical polyhedra. You know a bit, much more indeed. So results of defining on Stonefels shows that, combinatorial types of tropical polyhedral are, let's say, given by arrangement of tropical hyperplanes. You take an arrangement of tropical hyperplanes, you take the union of bounded cells, and you get a tropical polyhedron. So you understand very well tropical polyhedra, in terms of arrangement of tropical hyperplanes. That's it. So now, to explain how the application comes, we need to relate tropical convexity with classical convexity. So here, I will use some fields of Puiseux series. So we need to do inequalities. So I will work over the reals. So consider, a field of Puiseux series. We'll take R to be the value group. So the exponent of a series will be in R, and the coefficient will be real also. And we can take either absolutely formal series or absolutely convergent series for T large enough. This is a nice field studied by Van den Ries and Speyseger, which is a nice real closed field. So then you can define the valuation as the leading exponent or as the log limit. You take log of a series divided by log of T, and this is this valuation. And then you have this, so the message is that tropical convex sets, they arise as image by evaluation of non-Archimedean convex set. You have ordered field, so you can define let's say, inequalities semi-algebraic set over plus the series. So let me do it. Okay, you consider semi-algebraic set, basic semi-algebraic set over Kn. So you take polynomial. You can have polynomial strict inequalities or equalities. And this defines the basic semi-algebraic set with finitely many equalities or inequalities. And the semi-algebraic is finite union of basic semi-algebraic sets. And now in Rn, in the tropical world, or in the value group, if you prefer, a set of Rn is basic semi-linear if it is defined by linear equalities or inequalities, where you take the linear forms, they have integer coefficients. Okay. And the semi-linear set is the finite union of basic semi-linear. And so we have a very general property that the image by the valuation of a semi-algebraic set over plus the series, over your non-Archimedean field, the image by valuation is semi-linear. And so it's called the tropicalization. The tropicalization is automatically a semi-linear set if you start from any semi-algebraic set. Voilà. That's it. So you have rules to compute the tropicalization. For instance, if you have your set is given by inequalities p minus smaller than p plus, then you write the inequalities tropically. And so the image by valuation is given by the tropical inequalities under a genericity condition, which I will not tell here, but generically, the intersection commutes with valuation, generically. So here is some example. You have a semi-algebraic set x1 square smaller than tx2 plus t4 x2 x3. You have naive tropicalization 2x1 smaller than max of 1 plus x2, etc. So you just write the inequality tropically. And so the theorem tells you that the image by valuation of a B set is what is expected. Okay. And this is true if when the set predicted by the image by valuation, when the set given by max plus inequalities is the closure of its interior, then you have this equality. Okay, that's it. So now this is the main correspondence result. That is, if you have the image by valuation of a convex semi-algebraic cone over plus the series, then it's the same that saying it's a max plus convex cone and that it is semi-linear. And it's the same as saying that it is a sub-fixed point set of a Shapley operators. So games, they correspond exactly to the set of sub-fixed points of games that describe exactly image by valuation of a convex semi-algebraic set in the non-Archimedean world. Voilà. So this is the main correspondence which is used in the proof somehow. So if you want to visualize it, there is also some more maybe intuitive, let's say, vision with a logarithmic limit. That is, you take a polydron over plus a series, or a polydron with generators or constraint with a large parameter. You can take the log limit of your polydron, and then it converges to your tropical polydron. So this is the interpretation of this valuation. Okay? So at the limit of the tropical polyhedron. So then when you have a tropical polyhedron, some max greater than some max with affine terms. So you think of it as the image by valuation of a feasible set of a polyhedron over the field of plus the series with real entries always. Okay. So here is the theorem. If you take a polyhedron over the field of plus the series, then there is a tropicalization which you obtain by writing the equation of the inequalities tropically, and then generically you see the valuation commutes with intersection. That is, you can write the naive way of writing the inequalities gives you the image by the valuation of your polyhedron, and the tropical polyhedron and the classical one, they have the same combinatorics, they have the same edges, the same basic points, they have in one-to-one correspondence. So if you have a pivoting algorithm, a simplex algorithm in the non-Archimedean, you can project it to a simplex algorithm in the tropical world, and it's fine, under genericity condition. Okay, so just some explanation. So here is a tropical polyhedron. You see some vertices. So you see some arrangement of hyperplane which defines the polyhedron. So it corresponds to the classical polyhedron. You take T to be a large parameter. So this is the classical polyhedron. And they have the same combinatorics, same extreme points, same vertices. Okay? So tropical polyhedras, they are objects, they are limit of such creatures. And the combinatorics is preserved. So here is how you get that mean P of game is easier than combinatorial linear programming, because we showed that mean P of game is equivalent to V smaller TV, where T is a nice Shapley operator. So this corresponds to a feasibility problem in tropical linear programming. This is image by valuation of a feasibility problem over plus a series. And then, if you could solve if you do pivoting over the wheels, You could do pivoting over previous series, and then you could implement it tropically. There are some very nice tricks to do that, and to preserve the complexity. And then you could solve actually an imperf game by doing linear programming. Voilà. And similarly, the counterexample showing that interior point methods are not strongly polynomial. What you do, you take a bad example of game, so you lift it to a tropical polydron, you lift it to a polydron over previous series, you specialize to a large value of a parameter t, and then you get that the interior point methods are slow. This gives a very bad central pass, which is passes near the boundary. Voilà. So the main message in all these applications is that tropical polydra, they correspond by the evaluation to classical polydra with a huge parameter, and then this is a machinery to construct examples. So on counter examples. So now I'm coming to the newest part of the talk, somehow. I think I need, voilà, which is ambitropical convexity. So it's more open part with, you will see more, this tropical convexity is somehow very old, very stable. It started, I would say, even in the 70s, and there have been many results by Stonefels and others. Okay? And now this ambitropical is quite recent. Voilà. Also, there are connections. So this tropical convexity, which is very useful to find examples, counterexamples, and which has non-Archimedean interpretation, it has weaknesses. That is, tropical convex cone, as we say, they are tropical modules. They are the most important examples, but they are asymmetric. That is, there is max plus, there is min plus. So you have two models of tropical convexity, and sometimes you need to compose max plus map with min plus maps, like when you do the adjoint, when you do the Shapley operator. So it's a category where you cannot, it's not a category, you cannot compose naturally the map we would like to compose in this theory. And so for instance, if you take the best approximation mapping, then the best approximation mapping is not linear. And in fact, you have very few tropical modules which are images of linear projectors. Okay? So somehow staying with tropical polydra is not so convenient in terms of generality. Okay? And so there is an answer, a unifying answer with a new combinatorial object, more complex than tropical polydra, which is ambitropical convexity, which now I will present in the time which remains. So first I have to recall that a Shapley operator, or to show, you can show that a Shapley operator is characterized by the property of being non-expansive in something very bizarre, which is a weak norm, a non-symmetric norm. If you say that top of x is the max of xi, being Shapley, being order preserving actively homogeneous is the same. So being a game operator is the same as saying that the max bit of t of x minus t of y is smaller than the max of x minus y. So it's very similar to the theory of non-expansive mapping in Manar spaces. So when you see that, you can think that this theory of Shapley is related to this theory of Manar spaces and non-expansive retracts. So let me recall some very nice classical properties. Okay? A subset of a metric space is metrically convex. Well, if it had essentially a midpoint property. You take 2 points x, y, you assume that the distance between x and y is the sum of alpha and beta, and so the space is metrically convex if you can find a point, an intermediate point z, which is a distance alpha from x, and a distance beta from z. So in some sense, it's an axiom of geodesic. Voilà. And if you have a Manar space now, which has a technical property called the fixed point property for sphere, so it's true infinite dimension in particular, it's always true that the fixed point set of a non-expansive map is metrically convex. So you prove it very easily by a fixed point argument. Voilà. So here you see that fixed point of non-expansive mappings are, well, metrically convex sets in some sense. And even better, if you consider the Euclidean norm, there is this very standard observation, that is over a Hilbert space. If you consider a convex set of a Hilbert space, it's the same as saying that it's a fixed point set of a non-expansive mapping. It's a non-expansive retract of a space. That is, there is an idempotent map, P equals P square, that is non-expansive, whose image is your set, and to say that C is closed and convex. So you can think of convexity as a theory of non-expansive retracts with respect to Euclidean norms. And actually, if the dimension is at least 3, and if every closed convex set is non-expansive retract, then necessarily you are in a Hilbert space. So I'm saying classical convexity is Euclidean non-expansive retract. So with this setting, we understand what should be in the tropical world. So actually, there are some related results which are quite old by Aronson and Panipashki. A metric space is hyperconvex if for any family of any family of closed balls, it has with pairwise non-empty intersections, then the full intersection is non-empty. Okay? So it's a property of Lie number 2. So if you think two intervals, it has this property that if two intervals in the line intersect, then a full family of intervals intersect. So hyperconvexity is this generalization for when you require for all families of balls, and this is hyperconvex. Voilà. So the hyperconvex Banach spaces are the form C of K with subnorm, where K is extremely disconnected, so they are space like subnorm. Voilà. And so actually, with the help of this theory of Aronson and Panipashki, you can show that the fixed point set of subnorm non-expansive mappings of Rn are exactly hyperconvex sets. Exactly. So now you have to think that Shapley operators, they are subnorm non-expansive, so their fixed point sets are hyperconvex. And so, voilà. But Shapley operator is much more special than general non-expansive mappings in the subnorm. So here is the main idea, that is to define generalized convexity which captures the tropical convexity. We'll just consider fixed point set of Shapley operators. And now let me show you this. Voilà. So here is the main definition of ambitropical. So ambitropical, I want to define a notion which captures tropical and dual tropical. Voilà. So for that, I have to consider a tropical action, so additive cone. So additive cone is a subset, well, ordered by the partial order of Rn, and stable by translation by constant vector. And I am saying that the additive cone is ambitropical if it is a lattice in the induced order. Okay. So be very careful, it's a partially ordered set. So being a lattice in the induced order means that when you take two vectors, there is the smallest vector which is above these two vectors. Okay. And this subnorm, which is a relative subnorm, may differ from the naive sup in Rn. It's not the entry was max, is the sup in the space. Okay. That's a property of being a lattice. And now you have this property that the following are equivalent. C is a closed ambitropical cone, so closed in Euclidean topology, and, well, lattice in induced order, and stable by translation by a constant vector. If and only if it is a fixed point set of Shapley operator. So if and only if it is Shapley retract, that is the image of idempotent Shapley operator. So for max plus convex cones, they were sets of the form x smaller than T of x. For min plus, they are of the form x greater than T of x. And ambitropical, it's x equal T of x, actually. And it's just more general. Voilà. And so this is most natural, I would say, class of sets. Voilà. So for that, you have to use a little some lattice theory and to construct the retractions. So the retractions, they are given by some best approximation mappings. That is, when you are your ambitropical set C, you can consider the sup of the set of C, element of C which are smaller than X. So this defines the proper retractions. And so in that way, you can do the result. So maybe I should, voilà, so to synthesize. So now we have a class of sets which are, well, you see ambitropical cones. They contain max plus convex cones. They contain min plus convex cone. When you take the min plus and max plus convex cone, you require both, you get Elkhoff polyhedra. So ambitropical cone, it's a generalization, it's in the opposite direction. It's something which includes everything, both max plus and min plus convex. And if a set is ambitropical, then its opposite is also ambitropical. It corresponds to a Shapley operator in which essentially you reverse the order of the player. You reverse the player somehow. Voilà. So there is a lot of algebra with this ambitropical convexity. For instance, you can show that the canonical retraction from above or from below on an ambitropical convex set is obtained by projecting on the, you have a set C, you can consider the max plus convex set in general or the min plus convex set it generates. So max plus convexel or min plus convexel, and then you have one retraction which is obtained by projecting the max plus space, and then projecting the min plus space, and vice versa for the other retractions. So there is all algebra of retraction on these ambitropical sets. Let me show them. Let me show you. So if you understand this example, I think most of the talk will be understood. That is, so here you have in the simplex the ambitropical convex set. It's ambitropical is not a max plus or min plus. If you see the shape, it's a very strange shape. Okay. So at the right, you have a max plus convex hull. At the min, you have a min plus convex hull. And so the properties which are showed is that this ambitropical set, you can recognize it because, well, you have on the max plus convex set, you have a projection which has a certain action. On the min plus, you have a dual action. And then when you compose the max plus action on the min plus action, you have a fixed point set which is exactly the ambitropical convex set. Voilà. So this set, for instance, is not ambitropical because when you take the max plus and min plus closure, you have to add a cell. So this is a non-example of a set non-ambitropical polyhedral. Voilà. So in that way, there are some characterization of ambitropical, which I will skip to leave time for question. I'd like rather to show you some nicer properties. So if you have an additive cone in Rn, then it's not exactly a convexity. That is, the intersection of ambitropical set is not ambitropical, generally. However, there is a ambitropical convex hull up to isomorphism. If you consider all ambitropical sets which contains a given set, and that are minimal for inclusion, then they are all isomorphic. Isomorphism, where the morphism are Shapley operators. So in some sense, there is a convex hull defined, but up to isomorphism. Voilà. So, voilà. What shall we say more? So ambitropical can define ambitropical polyhedra by requiring that they are finitely generated. So they are defined by a Shapley operator with finite actions and action spaces. And then for tropical, I will maybe skip this motivation. And so for ambitropical polyhedra, they are so you can show that ambitropical polyhedra, they are defined as fixed point set of Shapley operators which are finitely generated, and there are also polyhedral complexes which are whose cells are Alkov polyhedra. So this you have it. And voilà. On the max plus space, on the min plus space are finitely generated, and all these are characterization. Maybe I should show some example. Voilà. This is an ambitropical polyhedron. So in blue you have the generators of a max plus space, and in red you have the generators of a min plus space. So these creatures are quite difficult to characterize. That's much more unbalanced than max plus or min plus, I would say. So in the case of homogeneous ambitropical polyhedra, that is invariant by a scaling, by usual scaling, then there is a full characterization. That is, well, I'll show you. So let me call the skeleton of a polyhedron the intersection with a 0, 1 to Vn, with a discrete cube. So as usual, I use the notion of a Weil chamber of Weil-Sen, which is a fundamental domain in the action of a symmetric group. Okay? And what I call Weil cell is the face of a Weil chamber. Voilà. And then we have this structure theorem that if you consider only ambitropical polyhedra that are homogeneous, so games with no payments essentially, just moves but no payments. Voilà. Then for this ambitropical polyhedra, they are in bijection with pose sets of 0, 1 to Vn that are lattices in the disorder. So you have a equivalence with a class of object lattice in the disorder of 0, 1 to Vn, but not necessarily sublattices. And they have been quite studied, this lattice, but voilà. And you have a bijection between the cell of a control complex and the chains of the lattice. So let me show you. In this case, for instance, you have an ambitropical polyhedron, and the two cells, they correspond to two chains in the lattice. And I think I have close to the end of my time. So yeah, it is good to leave time for questions and discussion. So what we show is that there is this, let's say, old theory of classical tropical convex sets, max plus and min plus, where everything is, I would say, widely studied. That is, tropical convex sets, they characterize the winner of min plus game. Voilà. They give you this, they coincide with subfixed point set of Shapley operators. You have internal representation, external representation by inequalities or by generators. It corresponds to image by evaluation of non-Archimedean convex sets. Okay? And they have nice combinatorial characterization as well, combinatorial types of arrangement of tropical hyperplanes or dual or regular, so-called regular subdivision of product of two simplices. So there is a full theory characterization of tropical polyhedra. When you go to ambitropical, you replace x smaller than t of x by x equal t of x, and then you get sets which are much more, I would say, richer. Voilà. So then there is however, still some good structure with some, let's say, a sub-theory of so-called hyperconvexity. Voilà. So we have still connection equivalence with min of game in some sense. and with theory of retraction of Shapley operators. But what is lost somehow is, well, say, the non-Archimedean interpretation and the, also, let's say, the global characterization. So it's still quite open. And now I'll be happy to answer to these two questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now this talk is open for questions and remarks. Cyril?
Yes. So I forgot which name you gave to it. Perhaps it was the payoff constant in the Shapley games or something like this. What is known on the nature of those constants? For example, is it always the case that they are rational? Or?
Yes, very simple. Let me go back to the original model. Yeah, it's a cycle. It's a cycle. So here, for instance, for this operator, you do, you know that the optimum is achieved by positional strategy. So if you play positionally, if I play positionally, we end up in a loop. And so in this loop, you, there is a mean payoff per time unit, which is the weight of the loop divided by the length. So actually, it's a rational number, and then the denominator is short, because the denominator is the length of an elementary cycle of a graph. Now, if you go to this model with probabilities, you still get rational number depending on the invariant measure of your stochastic matrix. And if you go to a more sophisticated models with imperfect information, then you end up with algebraic numbers. But but here, it's just rational.
Okay. And so if you consider a recurrence like a Fibonacci recurrence, in which you take any order, and coefficients which can be integers which are positive or negative, so linear recurrences, the constant coefficient. And you look for when the value of a term is 0. And then there is this nice characterization of the values where it is 0 by Lerch, theorem by Lerch, Collen-Mahler, which is that it is a union of finite arithmetic progression. Yeah. So I believe that in your language it's a semi-linear set. If
here you are working with a discrete version of semi-linear, which is Pressburger arithmetic. Okay. So I think it's you have two theories of semi-linear. You have semi-linear where you work over the wheels and you have polyhedra. And you have semi-linear where you work with integer point of polyhedra. So not the same logic. When you do integer point of polyhedra, it is, well, so-called Pressburger arithmetics. So then what you are saying is result that, for instance, the analog of what you say is that, well, the rational series or series in max plus series, it has a realizable series in max plus. It is ultimately periodic. So it is the result that several people several researchers in tropical geometry did, including Dima, which may be still here. Voilà. So it has been worked by. So you have this kind of periodicity properties, which are somehow more elementary, more easier in max plus. This Collen-Mahler theorem is difficult. But the tropical version is somehow more accessible. Okay. But then you.
And the question was, in fact, is it possible to prove such a theorem with your type of approaches?
To prove what theorem? Which scalar?
Oh,
it's very difficult. I don't know. I'm not. Maybe it's a very good. It's a good question. I mean, difficult. So there is a.
Bon, ok.
We don't want to distract the speaker in his deep thinking.
No.
He's solving the problem.
But if you don't come to the final answer, I maybe ask the audience for other questions or comments. Yes?
So you characterize this as homogeneous ambitropical polytopes. And what's known about non-homogeneous?
We don't do.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So the question is, we have this, what we call an homogeneous ambitropical polyhedron. It's an ambitropical polyhedron which is stable by a multiplicative action of scalars. So we can show that it is always, if you consider the tangent cone of any ambitropical polyhedron, you get an homogeneous. It's a way to localize. So the local structure of this ambitropical polyhedra is simple. It's given, relatively understood. It's given by this, you see, polyhedral complex attached to chain in a lattice. And the question of Gleb is whether we have a characterization for this guy, this creature. We would like to say that this polyhedral complex has a nice characterization. So we don't know. We know, of course, that it is an intersection of a max plus space and a min plus space. So the max plus space and min plus space have characterization. So it's a refinement of two polyhedral complex of Develin-Stone-Fels. Okay? But then there are further rigidity in this refinement that is not characterized.
So because it looks like generalized polymatroid, so you have just one condition like for polymatroid, another polymatroid, and then some compatibility conditions.
Yeah.
Probably here it has to be something like this. Some compatibility condition between.
We are looking,
yeah. I propose the further extension of the discussion during the coffee break, which will be 20 minutes long, starting from now. And we thank the speaker and for this very excellent presentation.